since Joe Sheen evidently cannot be with us today, I still can talk about what he wrote, and I appreciate he takes a point of view that kind of, he often does this, not to be a crank, but to maybe push back on some of the things that people want to see their teams do or what teams want to do themselves. And he's talking about the hazardous risk or the hazards of free agency. And he said, as we gear up for the 23-24 season, free agency season, I've been thinking a lot about last year's version, where 9 players signed contracts of at least $100 million. How many of those deals did they hold up? How will they look a year from now? Edwin Diaz suffered a knee injury in a freak accident celebrating a WBC victory. So that's $20 million the Mets spent on to re-sign him for this past season, and he wasn't available. Jacob deGrom made 6 starts in 2023. Probably make about 10, maybe 12 starts in 2024 after Tommy John surgery. When he pitches, he's excellent. But if you're going to talk about someone you're never really sure how available he's going to be or how deep he can go into games, I mean, it's a huge amount of money they've paid on him. The Twins, after the Carlos Correa merry-go-round, where the Giants thought they had him, then he failed their physical, then he went back in the market, and teams were wary of him, and then the Twins brought him back. $130 million over the next 5 years. In other words, that didn't even account what he did last year. He had the worst year of his career in 2023. He really declined at the plate, and he declined defensively, and he also came down with plantar fasciitis, an injury that not good for a shortstop, not at all. And again, the Twins are going to have to pay him $130 million over the next 5 years. Carlos Rodon, someone the Cardinals looked into, but of course, that sticker price was not going to be something that they thought they could afford, and I think that looks pretty good right now. Made 14 starts for the Yankees, 6.85 ERA, had a forearm strain, a hamstring strain, might have elbow problems going forward. He never has been durable, period. And he enters 2024 at age 31, and the Yankees will owe him $135 million over the next 5 years. He's never thrown even as much as 180 innings in a season. Aaron Judge, now listen, we all agree he's been a great player, but again, he only played 106 games this past season. He had that unlucky collision with the fence out in Dodger Stadium. He's going to be 32 in April. And Joe Sheehan has written this before. When you project, Aaron Judge into the future, it's not a very rosy outlook as far as him maintaining his performance. He's trying to beat the odds for tall hitters that go into their, into the age 30 decade. And usually there is things usually just start to tail off and tail off and tail off and tail off. They owe him going forward. They owe him a $320 million over the next 8 years. Brandon Nimmo, yeah, right.
It's amazing. Wow.
Brandon Nimmo has been a really fragile player. He did stay healthy for the Mets last year after they gave him a big contract, but he's never been able to stay healthy. He played 150 games. Well, that's the one exception, 150 games in 2023. But he's been a pretty fragile player who misses a lot of times. So he came through with 150 games this past season in center field, but they gave him an 8-year contract, the Mets did, to keep him, and for pretty big money. Now, Joe agrees that the Cubs did well in terms of the immediate payoff from Dansby Swanson, their shortstop that they signed to a pretty large free agent deal. His defense was really good. He hit pretty well. He was a 5-win player in wins above replacement, which is good. And he was really a big part of the Cubs' upturn, even though they didn't make the playoffs. But he points out that if you're counting on a shortstop to remain at a plus-plus defender level in his 30s, and he signed to age 35, he wonders if there will be or how much diminishing return. Trying Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts did have seasons in line with their career performances, though on the low end of their career performances, both at 30 seem to be, as Joe wrote, they seem to be, and the metrics bear that out, losing a step at shortstop, and they're both signed for 10 more seasons. What's that going to look like down the road a little bit? So there was a lot of really deals that look, a lot of deals handed out, a lot of big contracts handed out that look shaky already. But that's kind of the way it's always been. And people listen to this and say, well, so what? The Rangers won the World Series. So, okay, they gave all that money to DeGrom. So what? You know, they still won the World Series. Hey, they gave all that money to Corey Seager, and people say, well, he'll break down, he'll get hurt. Well, yeah, he did. He did. He gets hurt a lot, but, boy, he sure looked good in October. And fair point. Hey, Bernie and Joe, the Phillies got to the NLCS, so they had a successful season, even if they didn't win it all. And, okay, they've laid out a lot of money. It seems like they did just fine. That's true. But, listen, at least the Rangers won a World Series. If the Phillies, if some of these contracts they handed out start to go a little sour on them, and they're going to lose Aaron Nola, so it looks, but you never can close the door on that. We may have a different view of their spending in a few years. And I know that a lot of you say, well, I don't care. All these teams have plenty of money. That's true. And all these teams can do whatever they want to do. They can afford anything they want to do, including some contracts that go bad. Okay, that's true. I agree. But what's the objective here? Is it to make good decisions or to just throw money around? I agree the Cardinals have a lot of money to spend. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure as hell not making excuses for them if they don't go big this offseason. But I'm very consistent in this view that I've been espousing for years. I don't need Bill DeWitt to prove something to me by being dumb, as in throwing dumb money, stupid money away on players that don't really deliver the results that the team believed that they would deliver. I don't need that. I'd rather have them make good decisions that also will at least allow them to have some wiggle room, some space in the payroll. And I know many people, I hear from you all the time, you don't care about that. You just want to see Bill DeWitt spend $220 million on payroll. You don't care how he does it or whether it works. Just make him spend. I've heard you a million times. I get it. I come from a different place. The problem with Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak is that they are, cautious, conservative by nature, and I agree they need to get out of their comfort zone. And they're in this predicament, they're in this pickle because they neglected the area of pitcher development for so long, and it really went south on them in a hurry. And then the bottom fell out last season because the pitching collapsed. And that should have been, if you're not going to sign big-time free agents to be a starting pitcher, to be a closer, well, you can do that and probably do well as long as you are drafting and developing a good, steady flow of pitching talent in your own pipeline. But once that pipeline, once it bursts and it's fractured and it's broken, well, then you're really in trouble. Then you're going to have to spend the big money. But if they had taken care of their business based on their philosophy, if they had remained true to that, or at least done a better job with what their long-time philosophy was, chances are we would not be talking about them in such a drastic way where it was, they need 2-3 starters. Oh, they need this, they need that. If they had taken care of if they had made sure their own philosophy remained sound as far as developing pitching, and plenty of it, they wouldn't be in this emergency situation now that's going to require pretty dramatic measures that if they go all in, go into the deep end, chances are some of that stuff will blow up on them. Because, again, there's always the rate of failure for, like, expensive free agents, or the rate of disappointment is pretty high. Sometimes you get away with it. Sometimes you say, okay, the first 6 years will be good, and then after that, who knows? So Here's Joe's. I don't know if I call it its conclusion. Joe Sheehan. Quote, the new standard line is that teams should shut up and spend. Joe continued, I've written in this space many times that the money doesn't matter, that there is so much of it in the game and so few ways to spend it, that the opportunity cost is no longer a concern the way it was in the 1980s and 90s. And that's still mostly true. But, he adds, quote, the player matters, and if a class that looked as promising as 2023 can produce contracts, as many bad contracts as we saw, what's to say the 2024 class won't blow up as well? And I think that that's a fair point. I do recognize there's another side to that, which is, look, this is the going rate. We may all look at it and say, well, that's too much money for an Aaron Nola or even a Sonny Gray or Yamamoto or whoever you want to name. Too much money? That kind of makes me queasy looking at it. But that's the market value. And if you want to be not only just a contender, but a team worthy of making a postseason run, you either pay the going rate or you go sit in the dugout and watch other teams do it, and then you scramble to try to figure out a way to get back to level, back to being even average in terms of your starting pitching. You know?
Yeah, it's. I got a couple texts that come in while we're discussing this. One says, Bernie, I would only give the Japanese pitcher a 6-year contract and no one else longer than that.
Well, he's 25, and that makes. I agree with you. Except I will say, it's going to take more than 6 years. When you got the Yankees and the Mets and the Dodgers, you got all the big boys sitting down to bid on him. 6 years ain't going to do it. I'm not knocking what you said. I'm just saying, in reality, I'm kind of adding to your opinion. He's 25 years old, so that's a guy that, boy, the liability is so much lower than it is on a lot of these other guys. But it's probably going to take closer to 10 years. I'd say 8 minimum, unless the average annual value is so skyrocketing high that a team can, get him to agree to take a lower term, or shorter term, I should say, because they'll jack the salary up to a kind of a huge level each year, which does protect them a little bit. So last year, there was a Cy Young winner, and a former MVP, 4 great shortstops, one of the best leadoff hitters in the sport. And it was kind of a mixed bag result. This year it's going to be the pitcher, like Blake Snell, who posted the highest walk rate of any starter this century, and an outfielder, Cody Bellinger, he's referring to, who was non-tendered a year ago. And if you look, by the way, those of you who are well-versed in StatCast, it's really easy to look at this stuff. Just type in Cody Bellinger in the search thing and go to his batted ball stuff. I don't know. What do you mean, Bernie? I don't know, because his batted ball stuff actually, even though he had a good season for the Cubs, and certainly a bounce back season, and sit tight because I'll get to this for you. Let me pull this up. So, his average, his hard hit rate, I didn't know this. I was alerted to this by someone smarter than I am. Bellinger's this was his big comeback season, right?
Yeah.
His hard hit rate, which really does matter. Sorry, a lot of you don't want to believe that, but it actually really does matter. It was in the bottom 10%.
Wow, really?
Yeah, his barrel rate was in the bottom 27%. His average xVelocity was in the bottom 22%. So what does that mean? What it means is if he actually had a higher hard hit rate in all those years where he was sort of really struggling in L.A. with the Dodgers, his hard hit rate and his average exit velocity, his barrel rate, all of those things were considerably higher than what he turned in last season. So you say, well, then why did he put up good numbers? First of all, he probably felt really good physically. Number two, he probably got some of his confidence back, or a lot of it back. And number three, he may have benefited from, fortunate batted ball stuff. Like his expected batting average last year is 270. His expected slug was about 435. And that's fine. That's good. But is in recent years, he was so bad that he had a nice bounce back year that still comes with like warning flags. Who's to say that he won't sort of fall back into a less encouraging place? The difference is that the Cubs or whoever signs him is going to they're going to lock in on a long-term deal for huge money. So if he has a relapse and some of these underlying numbers say, "Oh, watch out now. Don't be overly confident about him maintaining what he did last year." And that there's just reason to think that way or to be a little bit concerned. The difference is you're not taking a 1-year flyer on him as the Cubs did. The pillow contract, as it's called. No, the next contract's going to be a big one, and it's going to last a long time.
Sounds like another Yankee mistake.
Somebody, right?
I've heard his name mentioned with the Yankees a lot. You mentioned the Judge contract. We know about the Stanton deal, and that they're loaded with just awful contracts over there. And I heard Bellinger's name, and you see it when you read things. And I wasn't aware of the numbers you just gave out, but I was leery. I know he had a great season. It was a great bounce back. But he was so bad before. I'm not sold that he's just going to take off and be the guy he was last year throughout the rest of his next 5, 6, 7 seasons. There was just so much bad beforehand. It's like, well, I'm not sure we're going to continue to get these great numbers throughout his career moving forward. But, time will tell, and that's the risk that somebody's going to take, and somebody could be rewarded, or they could just go, oh, yeah, we're going to have to eat this one because we didn't.
The year that he won the MVP, in terms of his hard hit rate, he was in the 86th percentile. That's good.
Yeah.
The highest is 100. That's good. In terms of his average exit velocity, he was again really, way up there. I don't have that one in front of me, but just trust me, he was way up there. But there it is. I'm sorry. It was his average exit velocity. He was in the 83rd percentile. That's good. Last year, like I said, he was in the 22nd percentile. His hard hit rate, he was again in the bottom 10th, the bottom 10%. That's like 76% down from where he was at his peak. And, it just, there's something there that says, let the buyer beware. That's all I'm trying to say. It's no more than that. I mean, are you really going to go $100+ million because he had one pretty good, it was good. OPS plus 133, 33% above league average. But you're gonna ride with that, and use that as evidence that he's the same guy he was when he was really, really terrific. He's the same guy again. I don't know. I don't think he is.
I'm there with you. I got another text that came in. It says, Bernie, I understand you got to spend a lot of money in the free agent market, but the alternative of not even trying isn't going to make me go down to the ballpark.
I agree with that. No, see, that's the point, and that's the pickle that the Cardinals are in, but they created it. It's their fault. Oh, no, I agree. And I think we've all said, you know what, the cost of free agency is justified because this is the market value, and the teams are swimming in money despite what they'll try to tell you. And if you want to improve your team and do it in a dramatic way, especially once you let the pitching collapse, you got to pay market value, or nobody really wants to hear about your troubles. And I agree with that 100%. And the idea that any free agent contract, whether it's huge or whether it's even kind of like middle range or on the lower end, they're all fraught with risk. There's no guarantees, right?
Absolutely not. They are definitely in a situation. Another text says, Bernie, if they sign both Nola and Yamamoto, fill their bullpen with guys they have in their minor leagues.
They're not going to sign both of those guys.
He says, and a couple minor leaguers that they have in their and low-cost vets, is that enough, or is that okay?
Well, first of all, there's a 0% chance they would sign both Nola and Yamamoto, and as time goes on, there's no reason to believe they'd sign Yamamoto, and my feelings on Nola have, my confidence in that has gone down too. So no, all due respect, man, I don't mean to cut off the text message because I really appreciate the text message, but again, you're kind of operating on a premise that's not based in reality. All due respect, I mean that.
I read it. I was reading. I was trying not to laugh too much, but
well,
if they got that happen,
I want to be respectful. I'm just saying,
yep.
But I also have to be straightforward with it.
Totally agree about the bullpen needing help, Bernie. How about using Liberatore and Rahm in the bullpen and getting new arms?
Well, I like Liberatore as a left-handed reliever. I do. I think his stuff plays better in that role. Because when have we, when he was a starting pitcher, and there have been only a couple times maybe where we saw him at his best, and he was at his best because he was jacked up to go against the team that traded him, Tampa Bay. He pitched a great game, and what was the thread when we've seen him good on the mound as a starter, even if that day it was the whole time he was on the mound. Other times you see it for 2 or 3 innings. He attacks. He's aggressive. He's kind of like, you SOBs ain't going to hit me. Here you go. And when he came out of the bullpen last season, that's exactly the mentality that he had. He didn't overthink everything. He's like, well, maybe I got 3 or 4 pitches. I got to try to show all the hitter every pitch, because the next time up this, the next time up that. So I got to show him everything I have so he can't lock in on it. You're a short reliever. You're a late inning reliever. That does not figure into the thinking at all. You come out of the bullpen and you attack. And he really looked good doing that. He really, truly did. So I think if you hear, and you know me, man, I'm always quick to say no. When you hear stuff that I believe is like borderline propaganda coming out of there, about, how much they like this guy or that guy. When they talk about Liberatore as a reliever, I'm with it. I think that actually makes sense. But to continue to try to force, kind of cram him into a rotation when it's pretty painful to watch most of the time, But he comes out of the bullpen and it's like, boom, it's like, whoa, there you go. And listen, I know they gave up Randy Arozarena for him. But if he can become a high-leverage reliever that's really nasty, late innings, man, I'll take it because they need it, right?
Oh, absolutely they do. If he can be a back-of-the-end guy, left side, and start getting guys out and throwing strikes and getting strikeouts, they desperately need a guy that can bring in that attitude. No doubt.
Before we take a break, I'm sorry. Before we take a break, let me back that up with something. In his, he's got scant experience as a reliever. But last year when he came out of the bullpen, and by the way, I want to tell you that these numbers got better as it went on. Mm-hmm. And he only pitched like 13 innings in relief, but has got a strikeout rate about 25%, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, as they say. Or actually, I shouldn't say that because that means a disaster is coming. That's just the start of things. When they used him in relief against left-handed left-handed hitters, they hit .059 against them. Is that good?
It's amazing the difference.
I know, .059 against them, and I think let me follow up on this because I have it right here. And when he was a reliever last year, coming out of the bullpen, again, small sample, all that, but you saw the stuff and you saw the attack mentality. Right-handed batters who should have a big advantage over him, right?
Yeah.
They hit .208 against him, although they did get him for a couple of doubles and a homer. But again, the point is he and he struck him out like at a rate of 27%. The point is he was just getting sort of accustomed to being a reliever, and the early showing was pretty encouraging. That's the point I'm trying to make. And when he comes out of there, attack, he's effective against left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters. So there's something to work with there.